Live from the virtual Oxford Plains Speedway in Oxford, Maine's USA, welcome sim racing fans to the East Coast Thunder eSports Tour Modified Series live on Apex Racing TV. I'm your host Joshua Lee. Joining me in the commentary booth, as always, is Brian Delp with Marco Barbanera down controlling the cameras and the overlays. Brian, we're now on week 5 of this series. The heating up, tempers flaring. What are you expecting as we head to Oxford?
I think that tonight is going to be one for the books. I mean, look at that track right there. That is almost as close to a perfect circle of any track you will see. It's going to make the driving very interesting. When you talk about oval, well, here you go. So it's just going to make things so tight and so hard to drive. These cars can get so loose on exit here because you're always really turning. We say it's a straight up front stretch and back stretch, but it's not really. It's still curved. So these guys are going to have a tough time holding onto these cars and getting around one another here. It's going to make things as hard as ever.
We mentioned the championship standings earlier on, and now taking a look at them, Matthew Lambert has been able to hold on to that points lead ever since week 2. He's doing a great job in that 48 machine of keeping it at the top of the charts, with Russell Peets remaining in the second spot, 9 points behind. But Casey Hatch is the new face up in the top 3. He jumped from 5th after last week's race, and he is now 16 points behind the leader, Cullen Johnston, in 4th, with Tyler Catalano jumping from 9th to 5th. He's 31 points behind Matthew Lambert. With a couple of the dominant guys, we've seen Kyle Eli go back-to-back week 2 and 3. He is still down there in 9th after missing the opening round, which was a double points race. And then last week's winner, Brandon Wilkinson, is all the way down in 30th after he just made his first start last week in week 4. And right now, I'm not seeing him on the timing sheet either, so it looks like a one and done. Came in, won last week at Southern National, and is now headed home and not putting that Tour Modified on the track. But with less than 5 minutes to go here in practice, Kyle Sisko, familiar face, up at the top of the leaderboard with Blake Barney in 2nd. He had a fast car last week in his first ever race in week 4. Mike Buchanan, a new face. He is 3rd on the speed charts. Tyler Catalano, he's been here every week. He's in 4th, with Brian Osborne in 5th, another new face to this series. A lot of new faces up at the top of the leaderboards, and it seems like, Brian, every time we get a new driver in this series, they are right up there fighting for the win.
Yeah, it just shows to the credit of continuing for bringing more people, setting that fast pace that makes this even more competitive of a field. We've seen guys that were running up front at the beginning of the series now pushed to mid-pack because more and more faster guys have come in. So it's made the racing really great. We've seen a lot of close racing up front and some beating and banging also as the races have progressed. So this series just continues to get better and better with every race we see.
And I don't think it's going to be any exception tonight. Let's take a look at that race format. We will have a 3-minute qualifying with the top 6 getting an automatic bid into the feature race. And then we'll head into Heat 1, which is 8 laps, with the top 4 getting an automatic bid into the feature. Same thing for Heat 2, 8 laps, top 4 automatically to feature. Then we'll have a 3-minute warm-up for all of our feature drivers, and then a 60-lap feature race here at the Oxford Plains Speedway. Now, remember, 22 drivers are eligible for the feature. Anybody else will need to go home. But fortunately, 18 cars signed up and on the racetrack. So that means nobody will be going home. Everybody just fighting for where they will start in the feature. And everybody will be automatically going into it. So again, qualifying and heats, really all just going to matter where you want to start on the racetrack for tonight's big money race for the points. Taking a look at the remaining schedule, next week, week 6, this tour will be at Martinsville Speedway for the second double points race of the year. Then they'll be heading to South Boston Speedway, Lanier Raceplex, Five Flags Speedway, and finally ending it off week 10 at USA International Speedway in Lakeland, Florida. The last and final race of the season, as well as the last and final double points race of this campaign, with everybody fighting for any points that they can possibly get. This is going to be an exciting race to that championship. 2 minutes remain here in practice before we head into qualifying. Brian, this track temp, 114 degrees right now. It is a very hot track temp. How is that affecting these drivers in those cars?
Well, it's making things very slick, especially on exit here, because you're always really kind of turning that wheel a little bit. It's making the back end very slick on these cars, so it's going to be very tough to see who can get that car planted the most to be able to really turn the wheel and go for it. You want to push all the way out here, not quite all the way to the wall because there is a little bit of a dip there, as we saw a little bit there as we were on board, but and you have to be really, really careful in turns if you're side by side with someone, because if there's bumping and banging, you could easily go up over the hill, and it's just going to make for a tough race if you end up doing that.
1 minute left in practice. The final tweaks to the setup before they head into qualifying. Kyle Sisko, top of the leaderboard. Blake Barney in second. Mike Buchanan third. Tyler Catalano fourth. Brian Osborne fifth. Cullen Johnson 6th, William Kruska 7th, Casey Hatch 8th, Trevor Catalano 9th, with Russell Peets rounding out your top 10. Jason Hand, Matthew Lambert, Patrick Hosier, Jason Ricker, Hunter Azaik, top 15. And then Daniel Hutchins, Dom Adam Zeeks, and Ignacio Adames rounding out your 18-car field as they make laps around the Oxford Plains Speedway. Pretty much everybody on track except for a handful of drivers, and there goes Russell Peets spinning into the infield. Not a lot of walls around this racetrack, only wall really on the front straightaway to prevent drivers from going into the stands. But other than that, it is pretty open here at Oxford Plains Speedway, meaning a lot of room to race here and a lot of different lines you could take as time is going to wind down. Practice now over. Taking a look at that 6-car of William Kruska with a little bit of a send there off of the hay. Don't think they're going to be doing that during the race, but final practice shenanigans going on as the checkered flag waves on practice, and now everybody going to go out for hot laps in qualifying. 3 minutes on the clock. Top 6 will make their way into the feature race automatically. Will not have to race in the heat races to determine where they will start in tonight's feature. Cars making their way out onto the racetrack here at Oxford Plains Speedway. Taking a look at that 14 car of Jason Hand. Casey Hatch is in the 14 tonight. See where exactly he is going to qualify. Now hopping over to the 12 of Jason Hand. He's going to begin his first lap. And the first times will begin to come in as Hand goes down the back straightaway into turn 3. A bit of a low entry for that 12 car. We'll see if that helps him. But coming across the line, Jason Hand is going to jump up to P number 2 right under Cullen Johnston. Points leader, the 48 of Matthew Lambert into turn 3. Another low entry with a little bit of a high exit. We'll see the time for Matthew Lambert as he comes across the line. Unfortunately, that's not going to be that great of a time. To 9th goes Matthew Lambert. Tyler Catalano, top of the board, 14.522. We'll see where Billy Kruska can end up on our leaderboard. Another low entry into turn 3. It looks like these guys having some late apexes. Across the line for the 6 car. Kruska going to go to P6. The 6 car is in 6th, 14.830. Not a lot of improvement from these drivers. Everybody making their laps. We'll see where that 13 ends up. Jason Ricker just taking the green flag onto the back straightaway. Loose down to the apron. Goes the 13. He had to chase that car down into turn number 3. Across the line. One of the Catalanos goes 14.838. That's Trevor Catalano, and Jason Ricker ended up 13th. With Tyler Catalano in the 64 improving on his pole time, 14.467. That is the new fastest time on the racetrack, with Cullen Johnston now sitting P number 2 with a 15.120. Sorry, the 14.630. 15.12 was his last time on the racetrack. Everybody gets, I believe, 4 laps, so they're all trying to improve on the times they had. You're taking a look at Kyle Sisko. We know he's got a fast Tour modifier under that hood of that 62. Let's see as he comes across the line. Where will he go? And it's P number 2, 14.595, not enough for the pole. Blake Barney, another fast car, into 5th, and another fast car, Brian Osborne, into 9th with a 14.826. So as qualifying ends, I don't want to say an unexpected name at the top because we've seen him fast all the time here in this series, but Tyler Catalano at the top of the charts, beating some of the fastest guys in practice to that pole spot in the feature race. So what a run for Tyler Catalano, as there's your qualifying results. Catalano, Cisco, Johnston, Barney, Kruzka, and Ricker all will make their way into the feature race automatically. They will not have to race through this heat, and both of our heats have now been condensed into one heat. So we'll only have heat number 1 here tonight. Remember, everybody gets in. This is just to decide where they will start. Jason Hand on the pole, Mike Buchanan to his outside. In row number 2, we have Casey Ash, Brian Osborne. Row 3, Ignacio Adames and Trevor Catalano. In the 4th row, Patrick Hosier, Russell Peets. 5th row, Hunter Azaik, Dom Adam Seeks. And in the final row, in 11th, Daniel Hutchins and Matthew Lambert, your points leader, going to start all the way at the back of this heat race. And remember, only one heat race here with the limited amount of cars we have signed up. 18 cars signed up, so we have an 8-lap heat 1, no heat 2, with everybody making it into the feature. Again, just depending on where they want to start, depends on where they finish in this heat.
One of the biggest things I saw there was a couple different lines. Some of the fast guys were doing sort of a double apex, as you see that little small tiny little bump there on the inside where you'll hook it right at the start, you'll push up a little bit in center, and then you'll dive it right back down to hook the same thing on exit. And that seems to be where some of the quick guys were. Others were just holding it straight around on that bottom, not really doing that. So it'll be interesting to see who's doing what and where the speed is.
That iRacing.com pace car is going to make its way into pit road. 12 cars ready to go for 8 laps to decide the running order for the feature. We are green. Jason Hand getting loose off the start on the outside. That's the 42 of Mike Buchanan. He got a great run off of turn 2 on the outside lane. He's going to clear Casey Hatch at the 14 on the inside, with Brian Osborne now on the outside of Hatch trying to get the spot, but he gets loose coming off of turn 4. He was able to save that car, but he's stuck on the outside. Now here comes Trevor Catalano in the 54 looking for the spot.
Yeah, these guys are beating and banging. I think we see more contact there. Just a little bit of wheel touching right now. No one's wrecked. It's been a lot of fun as these guys are bumping all over the place as they continue to battle there. So these guys are not, just because there's one heat and everyone's safe, they are fighting for that good starting position right now. And as we see, Hand still leading out front, pushing wide a little bit though, and it looks like Buchanan's going to get to his inside.
We know how important track position is in this series with the amount of cautions we've seen week after week. And there goes Mike Buchanan in his first start in this series, goes right to the point. He is making a statement in that 42 machine that he is here to win. And he is leading the way off turn 4 on to lap number 6, 3 to go. Casey Hatch now looking for the spot on Jason Hand, moves him up out of the groove to the inside of the 12, goes the 14.
I think Hand's car is getting tight right now because he hasn't really been able to hold that bottom, even when he didn't have anyone right to his inside or outside. Oh, and he wrecks.
He got loose coming off of turn 4, and around goes the 12. Up now into the fence, the 21 of Don Adam Seeks gets off track. But everything good up at the top. White flag here in heat number 1. Mike Buchanan in the 42, making his first start in this series. Did not qualify well, but he was able to start on the outside of row number 1 here in the heats. And he is going to take the checkered flag. Starting 7th in the feature race is going to be the 42 of Mike Buchanan, with a launch from Trevor Catalano in the 54. He finished 3rd. But Trevor Catalano showing a little bit of air here coming across the line. And thank you, Marco, for that replay.
Yeah, this is one of the cool features here at this track. Just got the checkered flag, just a little bit of fun. You hit them and you get a huge launch in some big air. It's always a huge highlight for after races to be able to do that.
Acting like he's in a giant stadium in a Monster Jam truck, but taking a look at these Heat 1 results, Mike Buchanan able to grab the win. Casey Hatch in second, Trevor Catalano third, Brian Osborne fourth, Patrick Hosier in fifth, Daniel Hutchins in sixth, Russell Peets seventh, Hunter Izaik eighth, Matthew Lambert ninth, Don Adam Seeks in 10th, Jason And in 11th, and Ignacio Adames did not start that heat, so he finishes in 12th, 8 laps down. Now we're in this 3-minute warm-up, everybody making last-minute tweaks to their setup or their racing line. And heat number 1, we saw some great racing action, but we also saw a lot of guys getting loose off of the corners, and there goes Kyle Cisco around getting loose off turn 4. Brian, do you see the looseness and the lack of grip on corner exit being a huge issue in this feature?
I do think it could be some. I think there's two different issues that I saw, especially during that heat, that is going to come into play here. I think one, as you mentioned, getting loose on exit. Some guys' setups are to be looser so that they're able to hold that bottom, especially in the center. What that then can do, though, is cause you to be loose on the exit, which if you're loose, you lose time. You don't carry as much momentum. The guy behind you can catch up. Or if you slow down so much because of it, you could get tagged also. The other issue I see is after a couple laps, some of those cars seem to have gotten very tight. So maybe to combat that loose exit, they were set their car up to be a little bit tighter. And after a few laps, they're just not able to get to the bottom. And you need to be able to hold the bottom here to go fast. So both of those options could come into play and be a huge issue as the race progresses.
1 minute remaining in the warm-up for this feature race. And Brian, we've seen it every week. It seems like the longest green flag run we've had this season was less than 10 laps. So cautions breed cautions, and that is true in this series. We've seen track position be incredibly important. I don't think anybody has won a race from outside the top 5 starting positions this season. So do you see that track position is going to be more important than it has ever been tonight, especially considering that we're at such a track that looks like it is going to breed a lot of cautions?
Yeah, track position will be everything here. You really, the only line is that bottom line. If you're on the high side, you're most likely going to get passed. So you want to be able to hook that bottom. I've seen a few people be able to make the high side work, but it's very, very rare. So track position will be so key to getting that good finish because they're going to have to go through you really to finish. And no one wants to be that person that straight out wrecks someone to get a win. So it's going to be very, very difficult to make passes here.
Checkered flag on the warm-up for the feature race. We are getting ready to go green flag racing for 60 laps around the Oxford Plains Speedway. Let's take a look at that starting grid for tonight's feature race in the East Coast Thunder eSports Tour Modified Series. Tyler Catalano on pole, Kyle Cisco to his outside, Cullen Johnston in third, Blake Barney fourth, Billy Cruzco rounds out your top 5 with Jason Ricker, Mike Buchanan, Casey Hatch, Trevor Catalano, and Brian Osborne running out your top 10.
And in 11th, you have Patrick Hosier. 12th is Daniel Hutchins. In 13th, we have Russell Peets. 14th is Hunter Izaik. 15th, Matthew Lambert. 16th is Don Adam Sizik. In 17th is Jason Hand. 18th is Ignacio Adames.
18-car grid ready to go green here at Oxford Plains. Usually we're used to seeing more. The max for the feature is 22 cars. And only 18 cars registered, so that means 18 make it to the feature. Everybody automatically was in the feature before we even qualified, but qualifying and our heat race determined how they started. The top 6 determined from qualifying. Everybody else from down 7th to 18th was determined by the heat race that we've had, usually 2 heat races. Tonight we only had 1, deciding our 18-car grid for tonight's feature. Going into tonight, taking a look at those points. Matthew Lambert, his main goal is just to hold on to this points lead. He sits 9 points above Russell Peets, with Casey Hatch 16 behind, Cullen Johnston 18 behind, and 31 behind is Tyler Catalano as your top 5 in the point standings. The entire field 2 by 2, 9 rows deep. getting ready to go racing. We've seen 4 weeks of action, 3 different winners. Who will become a winner tonight at Oxford Plains? Tyler Catalano will lead the field to the green flag. Kyle Sisko to his outside. Week 5 at Oxford. Let's go racing!
A great jump from Catalano there. Able to hold that bottom. We'll see how it looks on exit here. And it looks like Sisko pushes wide there, which gives the opportunity for Barney to come up on the inside, who's now on the back of Catalano.
Blake Barney looking to use that bumper to get past him onto lap 2. Everybody good through the restart. Oh, one car around in the back. It looks like Pete's turned a car around. That looks to be the 7 machine. Don Adam Seeks also involved, more on the front stretch. The 64, the pole sitter around. That's Tyler Catalano around in the front straightaway. Caution is out.
Yeah, we'll have to get a replay on that. It didn't seem like the caution came out for the original wreck, so I believe this is actually for what the caution came out for here, as we'll see. Or this is the first incident, it looks like, and yeah, just a little bit of touch up. No one actually got turned around. They just ended up slowing down, and then here's the second incident, and it just looks like that Catalano just got turned on exit there. That's a very bad spot to get hit. The car just spun, and that's what's going to bring out the caution.
It looks like possibly that Tyler Catalano got loose on exit, had to check up to chase the car, and then ended up getting a bumper full of Blake Barney. Or it's possible Blake Barney was looking for a hole on the inside as Catalano moved up slightly, and they just got into each other and turned around. An unfortunate wreck for the pole sitter. Tyler Catalano had a fast car, but it looks like he is in pit road. And he is going to be servicing that car. He is in pit road, not in install just yet. Kyle Sisko also came down pit road with Jason Ricker and Hunter Azaik. They are all in their pit stalls down pit road. We'll see if they change tires. They only get 1 tire set here tonight, so that means they can only change 1 time. And there's the cars all down pit road. Catalano, Sisko, and Azaik. On that time, it also says Jason Ricker is in as well. And coming out is Tyler Catalano. There's Jason Ricker, the 13 in pit road. 64 is out onto the racetrack, getting lined up in the caution field. And they are 2x2, getting ready to go restart. That iRacing.com Ford Mustang pace car going to pull into pit road. Catalano trying to catch up, but there goes the 92 of Blake Barney. We're back racing, but Barney loose on the inside. He's going to have a bumper full of Billy Karuska now in the 6. On the outside, trying to make it work is Cullen Johnston, but that inside line is the place to be right now as they're 3 wide battling for 3rd.
Yeah, and it just seems like he's having trouble holding that bottom at all, or even the middle lane. He's just pushing wide there. And on that start, we saw Barney get up on the curb and get loose, so very different things happening here to some of these cars, and it does depend on the setup, and the 42 goes around, it looks like.
Mike Buchanan self-spinning coming off of turn 4. The yellow flag is out. See that iRacing flagman working overtime to make sure everybody knows that it is a yellow flag on the racetrack. Mike Buchanan, it looks like another driver, Brian, bit by the devil. That is the loose off of the corner of the iRacing.com pace car. Doing a little bit of rallycross there.
Yeah, these cars are just seem to have, it really just depends on your setup. Some of these guys seem to really be able to get the car turning. Others are very loose, and others just can't turn at all. So these guys are just really struggling with one another. And it actually seems like there was contact there that put the 42 maybe out of his groove, that ended up getting him out of the area where you really want to run. So maybe he was up in the marbles, got loose there, and that's really what ended up causing that. But I think we're going to see a lot of that today.
I would like to see if our producer Marco Barbonero has a replay of that iRacing pace car going for a little bit of a ride there, coming off of pit road. There it is, from on board Blake Barney in the 92. Wow, I think I've seen a lot of weird things in the sim. I don't think I've quite ever seen the iRacing.com pace car hitting one of those dirt piles holding up those lights in the infield. Brian, have you ever seen something like that?
I have not, but these guys got to worry because if they wreck towards that inside, we could see one of these competitors going for that ride tonight. And if you go for that ride, your night is most likely done. So these guys got to be very careful. It definitely, if you are going to spin it to the outside. Make sure you go nowhere near any of those stacks.
We are currently on lap number 13 of 60 here tonight. The 92 of Blake Barney leads the way. Billy Kruska in second. Trevor Catalano third. Brian Osborne fourth. Casey Hatch rounds out your top five. Daniel Hutchins in sixth. Cullen Johnson seventh. Russell Peets eighth. Patrick Hosier ninth. And Jason Hand rounds out your top 10. Here as we are still under caution, now on lap 14 of 60. But the field going double file, lights out on the Ford Mustang pace car. We will be going back racing this time by. The 92 of Blake Barney got the lead off of the first caution, and he's been able to hold it so far tonight. But that 6 car, Billy Karuska, is fast on the outside, and here comes the second of the Catalanos. Trevor now up from 9th. He's in third, back racing. But Blake Barney with a great jump, getting loose in the back is the 54. The 6 also got loose. The 92 looking to pull away, but we're back. Not under the yellow flag. One car spinning on the inside. More carnage on the back straightaway. Heading into turn 3. Caution is out. Pete's involved. Catalano involved. Hand involved and more.
Yeah, this is just the typical of what this track is. You're going to see a lot of touching and guys wrecking. We saw the 21 was down to the inside and just missed all of the stacks there and was able to drive around them. But there's so much going on at this track at all times. We see he got help there and he almost went over one. But then later on there was more contact. So it's just so much happening all over the place. You really can't avoid it here.
See if we can get a replay of that other wreck that happened. Here it is. Looks like it might have involved that 29 machine of Daniel Hutchins. No, okay, so the 15 looks like he just got spun around with the 54, and that included Russell Peets and Daniel Hutchins in the mess. Back live now here at Oxford Plains. A couple guys coming down pit road. Brian Osborne, Hunter Zyke came down pit road. You're on board with 48 Matthew Lambert, current points leader. It just looks like a couple guys got involved with contact up ahead, and it looks like everybody just nowhere to go. This track, the groove is pretty thin here, even though the track is pretty wide. Everybody trying to stay in the same groove, so it looks like just a lot of guys running out of room to try and escape that caution.
Yeah, especially the way this track is banked, and there's no real outside wall here, but you don't want to go over the hill, as they call it, so you have to stay on the track. So it's very difficult because while it looks wide because of not having that outside wall, it's actually, like you mentioned, very narrow because of the hill that you just drop off of when you go over there. You can kind of see it as we're on board here. So it's just very intense whenever a wreck happens in front of you, because really you can't dive to the inside because then you go flying. You can't go to the outside because you go flying. So really your best option is just get on those brakes and make sure you don't hit anyone.
A third of the way through this race, lap 20 of 60 now. Blake Barney leads the way. Billy Kruska to the outside. Then it's Casey Hatch, Trevor Catalano, and Cullen Johnston. Your top 5, they're double filed. Pace car going to pull down to pit road once again. We'll see how many positions these guys can make up before the next caution. And Blake Barney is off and away. Green flag back out. Billy Kruska in the 6 on the outside. Not able to get as great of a jump. He is now going to have a mirror full of Casey Hatch as the 14 goes to the inside. There's looking like a lot of pressure from the 54 out back. Trevor Catalano looks like he might have hit the apron. Got up out of the groove, but Blake Barney pulling away as they battle for second behind.
Yeah, it's so hard here starting on that outside because you're just set up to lose positions unless you do something like that. I saw it coming. Billy wanted to get in front of him. He sent it in there hoping to get some, but there was no give from Casey Hatch. It was all take, and that's where we saw Billy Kruska just get turned around there because I mentioned it. You start on the outside, you can't get to that bottom usually because it's so hard to get such a good restart to not have them on your inside. and that inside is what you need. So he decided he was just going to send it. But when you do that, you then have to get on the brakes harder. And at that point, Casey Hatch was taking all he could and ended up turning him around.
And you really have to do that, especially in this series where cautions are kind of the name of the game. You need any position you possibly can get. And Casey Hatch saw a hole. He wanted to take it. But the 6 of Billy Kruska was just a little bit too close, and that door was not quite as open as the 14 would have hoped. So that bred this next caution as we are on lap 25 of 60 here tonight at Oxford Plains, and there goes the 6 into pit road.
Yeah, it's also very hard to get any damage fixed here because, as we mentioned, it's such a short track that you can come down, you can try to get it fixed. Oh, and our leader is pitting, maybe deciding to come down for some tires right now. But yeah, damage, you're not really going to get too much fixed here without going laps down. So you have to very much be careful on your time spent on pit road.
It does seem like all he is doing is changing tires, but I'm wondering, because this is his second race here, if he's just kind of wanting new tires, but I'm not quite sure how that strategy is going to help him with the amount of cautions that we usually have on a nightly basis here in the East Coast Thunder Esports Tour Modified Series. But he is out in the way of pit road. He is going to beat the pace car out, so he will at least stay on the lead lap. Wondering what Blake Barney is thinking under that helmet for this strategy. We'll see where he will end up later on in the race. He's currently scored P12 out of the 18, with only 17 being on the racetrack currently.
Yeah, and you mentioned it. He is 12th because that's the end of the lead lap. So there's only 12 cars on that lead lap, but he's now put himself right back in harm's way. So it's very dangerous to take tires right now. I think the better strategy is to stay out, but I guess we'll see where he ends up and what ends up happening the rest of this race.
He might be confident in his ability to avoid wrecks and make up positions, but we'll see what happens here at Oxford Plains. Right now, the only expected is the unexpected. As the pace car pulls back down, Casey Hatch in control of the field for the first time tonight. Trevor Catalano to his outside. The other Catalano, Tyler, in second on that inside line. The Catalanos with a little bit of contact around the 54 goes the 64. Tyler Catalano, he started on pole and he's looking for the lead now on Casey Hatch.
Yeah, and that's one of those things is we see Barney back there in some issues already, but the Catalanos are teammates, of course. They're related, so they don't want to get into one another here. And so that's definitely one of those tough decisions on a start on what you do. And it seems like Barney is having some major handling issues right now back in the pack as we're riding along. This doesn't seem to look good for him, but we'll end up seeing where he goes.
Blake Barney looking like he's driving a dirt late model in Eldora, and Russell Peets is around. You can hear the engine blowing the 191. Russell Peets around, but he's out of the groove, and the 54 just blew an engine. What on earth? Trevor Catalano, the engine just blew on that 54 as the 64 goes around the 14 for the lead. Like three things just happened in a matter of a lap there, Brian.
Yeah, I'm interested to see why his motor blew. Like, that just seems so random and out of nowhere that it ended up blowing like that. I wonder if he had damage that he hadn't had fixed from one of those incidents earlier. But yeah, that's definitely one to wonder because he's just driving along here from the looks of it. There,
that engine just gave.
Yeah, I think he must have still had damage from an incident earlier. We remember he had a few incidents at the start of this race, but sadly he's out of it now because the motor blowing is usually 30 minutes of repairs. So not a good night for Trevor Catalano.
A lot of fast cars in the garage tonight under retirements, and that's not going to be great for Trevor Catalano, who sits sixth in the point standings right now. But we have 24 laps to go, a good green flag run going here, with Tyler Catalano in the lead, Casey Hatch in second, Cullen Johnston third, Mike Buchanan in fourth, and Blake Barney in fifth. You're currently on board with the 42 of Mike Buchanan, as he is looking to get around the 84 of Cullen Johnston. Doesn't look like much is happening, and you can hear it, Brian. I'm so fascinated listening to this onboard because you can hear just how little on the throttle the 42 of Mike Buchanan is. It doesn't even sound like he's putting that pedal all the way to the floor.
Yeah, sometimes if you try to actually go all the way to the floor with some of the setups, it just causes the car to spin out. So sometimes you're really only 75%. Just you may touch that full, but you don't stay there at any point in time, really. So it's just something that you really have to work that throttle the entire time here.
42 able to get around the 84. Now Blake Barney trying to put work in on the 84 of Cullen Johnston to get around him for P number 4. Blake Barney, one of the most dominant cars of the night, sits back in 5th right now. You're taking a look at that 92 as the 84. Cullen Johnston gets up out of the groove. Blake Barney says, I'll take that P number 4 position. Now up into 4th is Blake Barney. He's back where he started. He started 4th tonight and more. It is so awesome to see Blake Barney out here because look at him. He is maybe turning right more than he's turning left right now.
Yeah, it looks like he's driving a dirt car right now, the way he's moving that thing back and forth. Normally, if you turn that wheel right at all in any type of stock car or oval, you're just losing time. He's out here fighting that thing and picking up positions. So it's very fun to see it happen. I'm not sure he'll be able to get all the way back to the lead doing that. But it's definitely a lot of fun to see. As we see, Tyler Catalano is just leading this thing away and just pulling further away from Casey Hatch in second.
This is also the longest green flag run I think we've had in this series all season. Lap 45 of 60. They're going to come across the line. 15 laps to go. Tyler Catalano leads. They're taking a look at Cullen Johnston, who sits in 5th spot. Now looking at the 64 of Tyler Catalano leading the way, and he's going to come up on some lapped traffic up ahead of him. This could push him back into the 14 of Casey Hatch, who is a little bit of a second behind. But there goes the lapped car up to the outside. That's the 12 of Jason And, letting the 64 right on by and letting the leaders battle it out. And there's the 14 and the 42. Mike Buchanan wants by that 14 of Casey Hatch. We'll see if he ends up putting the bumper to him. And here comes Blake Barney. He's on fresher tires than anybody in this field right now. He only has 22 laps on his tires. Everybody else has 45 plus. And he's looking to get back to the lead, but around goes Blake Barney into the inside, right into pit road. The 92 of Blake Barney around, and he is going to tow that car. An unfortunate break for that 92 with 11 to go. The most dominant car of the night just went back into the pits.
Yeah, and I mean, he had to see it coming at some point. Just the way he's been fighting that thing since the beginning. He was putting on a show for us, but at that point, you're so close to that edge. One little mistake, and we saw it there. He went around into pit road. It was going to give him a black flag anyways, so at that point, he just decided to tow it back. It's an unfortunate end to the night there, but it was a great showing from Blake Barney, and I'm sure he'll want to avenge that next week.
We will see if he is able to do that. You're currently on board with the 42 of Mike Buchanan. Once again, trying to get past that 14 to Casey Hatch, and I think that they are closing this gap. Yes, they are. They're closing that gap to Tyler Catalano, moving the 14 out of the groove. Goes the 42, but Mike Buchanan up to second place. He is now going to try and chase down Tyler Catalano, who's currently leading this race with 7 laps to go. The 64 started on pole. The 42 started back in 7th, gaining 5 positions as the 42. He now has his eyes set on that 64, but he only has 6 laps to try and get that lead and get the win.
Yeah, and at that point, he was just thinking, I have to go. You are holding me up. There's 8 laps left. It is go time. If he wants any chance at winning this race, he has to push now. But I don't think he'll be able to get there by the time this race is over. As long as Tyler Catalano can just keep running these consistent laps, it'll put it there. We only have 8 cars on the lead lap right now, with Matthew Lambert being the final person on the lead lap back in 8th place, with Don Adam Sizik as your biggest mover, up 9 positions tonight. So good points position for those guys. So for those that were able to hang it out and keep on here, it's going to be a very good points night.
some fast cars from practice that were unable to really finish this race. Kyle Sisko, Brian Osborne, both very fast, along with Blake Barney. They are all ruled off of the racetrack multiple laps down. But there's the 64, the 42. This is the battle for the lead. The 42 of Mike Buchanan, less than a second in between them. Make that 6/10 to be exact. But it looks like he's going to run out of time. White flag in the air one more time around Oxford Plains Speedway. Tyler Catalano has been in the running for wins every week, but he's been unable to get it done. From pole to wrecking to back up front to the win, Tyler Catalano gets it done at Oxford Plains.
And, oh, I thought he was going to jump it. He didn't do it, but that's a great run from these guys. That was about 20 laps, I think, of green flag runs there towards the end. We saw a few mistakes from guys, but able to keep it off the track. And Tyler Catalano coming home with a huge points day as we see him celebrating now.
Tyler Catalano, I believe, has been here every single week, maybe only missing 1 week out of the 5 currently that we've had. And he is just one of the most dominant racers out here. He has been unable to get it done until tonight. A winner at last in the East Coast Thunder Esports Tour Modified Series is Tyler Catalano for Opgar Esports. What a run from that 64. He started on pole, got wrecked out early by the 92, went all the way to the back and fought his way up through the field to get this win at Oxford Plains. Taking a look at your full race results here on Apex Racing TV. Tyler Catalano gets it done in Maine with Mike Buchanan in second, Casey Hatch third, Cullen Johnston fourth, Jason Ricker rounds out your top 5, Patrick Hosier in 6th, Don Adams-Cizek in 7th, Matthew Lambert, your points leader, in 8th. We'll see how that changes up. Jason Hand in 9th. Blake Barney rounds out your top 10 with Trevor Catalano, Russell Peets, Daniel Hutchins, Billy Kruzka, Brian Osborne, Hunter Azike, Kyle Sisko, and Ignacio Adames. Rounding out your 18-car field here in the East Coast Thunder Esports Tour Modified Series. We got post-race interviews with your top 3 coming up right after this break. You're watching the East Coast Thunder Esports Tour Modified Series live on Apex Racing TV. A hectic night here in the East Coast Thunder Esports Tour Modified Series at Oxford Plains Speedway. Week number 5 of the campaign saw one of our longest green flag runs of the season and a brand new winner, Tyler Catalano, getting it done tonight in the 64. in that Tour Modified. Brian, one of the most exciting races I think we can both agree that we've seen this entire season, and just the long green flag run, a lot of beating and banging, a lot of great battles throughout the field. Talk about this race from your perspective. I mean, just one of the best we have seen this season.
Yeah, definitely. The way that these guys were able to run around here, and very much on the edge of their seat the entire time. We saw Barney fighting the wheel. We saw Buchanan fighting the wheel. These guys were fighting it as if they were dirt tracking the entire time, and that's what happens when you have a track that is always turning. So, I full credit to these guys for being able to put on such a great show. There were so many different incidents that happened throughout the race that even if someone had an incident, they didn't try to bring out a caution. They pulled it to the inside or the outside and just got off the track. So full credit to the sportsmanship that ended up going on during this race, and just a great show all around.
I'm waiting on that updated point standings. We'll get that to you in just a minute. But heading into tonight, Matthew Lambert had the lead. Russell Peets was in second. Casey Hatch in third. 16 points behind the lead is Casey Hatch. But Matthew Lambert was able to finish in eighth spot. So that's going to get him a good amount of points. But Russell Peets was wrecked. He finished in 12th. And Casey Hatch finishing the best out of all of them in third. And going to look and see if we have the updated points. Getting word from Race Control that we should. Yes, we do. And a familiar face up front. Matthew Lambert able to hold on to the points lead. He leads by 10 points over now Casey Hatch, who was able to overtake Russell Peets for that second spot. Peets falls back to third. No change, fourth through sixth. Cullen Johnson, Tyler Catalano, and Trevor Catalano, fourth, fifth, and sixth. We do have a change down in seventh. Jason Hand hops up from 10th. Patrick Hosier now in 8th from 13th. Hunter Azeik goes up from 10th to 9th. And Chris Downing goes from 7th to 10th. And that is your top 10 in the points as we finish off week number 5 of the campaign. Matthew Lambert able to still hold on. Brian, do you see him holding on all the way to the points championship? I mean, next week is a double points race at Martinsville, so that is really going to shake up the points depending on where Matthew Lambert finishes.
Yeah, I mean, he's been so consistent. He hasn't really got into trouble, and when he has, he's kind of just settled down. While he's may not be all the way up at the front and fighting for the win right away, he's been just so consistent in his running that he's been able to hold on to those points. And I don't see that really changing anytime soon, because he just continues to amaze with how consistent he truly is, where he doesn't need to be that person fighting for the win every week, possibly getting wrecked, as we've seen some leaders get wrecked. He just runs where he is, keeps the car safe, and that's such a skill that we forget about nowadays, is just keeping the car safe as it is. And so full credit to him on being able to do that.
Well, the future of this broadcast here on Apex Racing TV looks slim. It looks like we'll have the season finale broadcasted live here on Apex Racing TV, but week 6 through 9 will be let up to everybody at Race Control to get out those results. I'll be updating it on my social media platforms, and I'll be watching week in and week out. But Brian, these first 5 weeks of the campaign have been incredible, and going through the rest of the season into the season finale, what are you looking forward to most as this championship develops and these drivers just keep continuing to get better and race a lot harder out there on the racetrack?
I just think it's just such a great show. I mean, it's short track racing. Cautions happen in short track racing. And so we've had that. But we've also had those green flag runs that we've got to see, like tonight, where these guys really truly put on that show, wheel to wheel, chasing each other down. Just the ability to do that. And we see people making drastic moves, which is always going to be there, because most of these tracks you have to be on that bottom lane. So I just see the show getting even better and the racing continuing to impress.
Well, you'll be able to see the double points season finale live here on Apex Racing TV from Lakeland, Florida, the virtual USA International Speedway, September 3rd of this season. But Tyler Catalano celebrating in the 64 here in the East Coast Thunder Esports Tour Modified Series. For Marco Barbonera, Brian Delp, I am Joshua Lee. We thank you for tuning in to 5 weeks here on the Apex Racing TV network, and we hope to see you in the season finale in just a couple weeks. Happy sim racing, and we're saying goodbye from Oxford Plains.